Minister, the Trail of Lights that you visited in April, almost 10,000 visitors through. So there you go, I told you I'd get you some figures. Now I hope you can return the favour. When we're talking about budget references, budget paper 3, page 62, is it correct that you've reduced the subsidies by 35% for some 200 programs delivered in Metro Melbourne by non-TAFE providers?
So there's been an alignment of what is actually needed in terms of the labour market, and I think I'll hand to Link. Did you want to go through the commissioning of the skills first, and then maybe Craig might want to join in terms of the information that is available to him.
Thanks, Minister, and thanks, Ms. Bennett. For planning for the allocations for 2025, the investment has focused on courses and skill sets, accredited short courses, that are needed for the state's highest priority areas, and including things like housing, renewable energy, and that's within the budget. So the policy was set to prioritise those particular areas. The Skills First program therefore continues to fund over 200 training providers, private training providers, community training providers, industry, TAFEs, etc., so that eligible students across the state get supported through 530 subsidised courses. We did a few things in setting for 2025. One was looking at the completion rates, the performance of courses, whether or not there was actually a high fee-for-service demand or provision already in the market for courses, so that we could really refocus those that were subsidised to focus on training that leads to the real jobs. And so that did result in a change to some subsidy rates for particular courses and a removal of 91 courses from our subsidised skills list.
Okay. Sorry, those 5 priority areas, they're housing, construction, clean energy...
care economy. What we're doing here is looking...
Did you say it?
Yeah, for an example. So government has set sort of policies around critical areas where we think a subsidy is warranted. There's some areas where you've got... Sorry, just to... If I may. Some areas you have high provision of training by the private sector where, in fact, the cost of training is low compared to, say, a full accredited course in an apprenticeship like a trade, which is a high cost, requires a high cost subsidy to support, which is critical. So we make those judgments based on training leading to jobs, and we make some decisions then within the allocated budget around the subsidy rates. And so there was a reduction, again, of a number of courses, and a number of the providers who had previously provided in the previous year, had some changes this year.
Thank you. Is early childhood on the priority list? And if it's not, why isn't it? Especially with the free kinder rollout.
Yep. There's an easy answer to this.
Okay.
And I'll cut to
Please,
Craig.
I haven't had an easy answer all week.
Because he's been able to track the data on the delivery of early childhood education.
Okay.
Right?
One of the challenges in early childhood is, and this is part of the data that we track, is many of the completers are only in that workforce for a short period of time, and we know some of the challenges in there. So we're trying to do some work to say what can we do to get better outcomes from that, and that was why there's a moderation in that allocation.
But it was also that there was an explosion of enrolments in early childhood education, and it didn't necessarily lead into long-term retentions in the industry.
Yes.
And so we were on the brink of an oversupply, was my understanding, of the early childhood situation. So it's about looking at where the demand is and where there isn't demand for a period of time, or you can see a bottleneck where a demand is going to be touched upon within a short period of time.
So is it still a priority in regional, like Sunny TAFE, and shout out to Sunny TAFE, they're a magnificent campus, and regional areas we know are really suffering with childhood educators. There's some small rural towns that don't have daycare, they don't have kinder, they don't have the free kinder. Is it a priority in regional as opposed to metro then?
Yeah, so there's a recognition, and Lil will be able to expand on this a bit, there is a recognition that there is a different labour market in regional Victoria.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So the...
Regional a different, but also access
Yes.
to training is a little bit different. You've got a number of metro TAFEs. There's only one TAFE, it's only TAFE.
Yeah, so what's being done then to meet the skills need? Because there will be a skills need, and if the completion rate or the retention rate within that workforce, particularly of early childhood, and we know that there are a lot of young families, particularly in growth areas around the city, what's being done to address that foreseeable skills shortage?
Well, it's not a foreseeable skills shortage, it's a potential oversupply at the moment. In terms of regional Victoria though, it's a little bit more balanced, and so we're making sure that there is early childhood education delivered through regional Victoria. It's as simple as that.
Is there any incentive that you know of, and I know this is not your portfolio, but any incentive to get some of that oversupply of workforce in early childhood out to the regions? It could certainly help us.
It would, any workers that are in metropolitan areas, we would encourage to go to regional Victoria where we've got job shortages, and I'm sure Regional Development and the Minister for Employment have got their heads working on those sorts of things. But the fact of the matter is, in our area, the incentive is free TAFE for early childhood educators, and we're very proud to be able to deliver that. I've got to say that in terms of the explosion in enrolments, that was primarily in the private sector, completely outstripped the enrolments in TAFE, and there seems to be some interesting relationships between some of those providers and childcare providers.
Really? Do you want to expand on that a little bit? Are you able to expand on that?
I'm prepared to have a discussion with you about that, but I'm conscious of the time.
Thank
Bill has just run.
Thank you, Minister.